I'm Executive Director of Sovereign Bodies Institute. I'm excited for our conversations today. We have a lot on the agenda. Today, we're going to talk more about SBI and the work that we're doing in Montana around MMIP, and introduce you to some of our new staff members who are just fabulous and amazing. And we're also going to hear from Jennifer Whitebear, who is the mother of Bonnie Three Irons. Um, we're going to go ahead and start by introducing one of our recent hires, Lenny Hayes. And Lenny has done a couple webinars with us throughout the month of June for Pride Month, and also recently did a webinar on sexual violence against men and boys. Lenny has been on the SBI team for a few months now, and is definitely a critical member of the team and the SBI family. And the reason that we have him on the call today is because we want him to share a little bit more about his work as a mental health provider and a counselor, because that's part of the work he's doing with SBI. And I also, just before we turn it over to him, want to give a big shout out because today is Lenny's graduation. Lenny was selected to attend the Human Trafficking Leadership Academy, which was a year-long process of meeting with a cohort of all Indigenous folks who are doing work on human trafficking in their respective communities. And I think their focus was especially on trafficking of Indigenous youth, and how we can better prevent that trafficking, but also support them. And so SBI is incredibly proud of Lenny for his participation in the academy, and that he is graduating today. So we'll have him talk a little bit about that, and then also talk about his work with SBI and introduce himself to the folks that work with us in Montana. So thank you, Lenny.
Thank you, Anita. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tukawanari Luta, which means Redstone Ghost. My English name is Lenny Hayes. I am from the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate of the northeast corner of South Dakota. I have currently been a part of the SBI staff since April 2020. I am the Missing and Murdered Two-Spirit Project Assistant, but I also have my own private practice. I have my own consulting business, which is called Taute Topa Consulting. I am a mental and chemical health therapist specializing in marriage family therapy. I have always worked within Native community. I've been practicing as a mental health provider for 10 years now. I have always worked within Native community. I've never worked outside of non-Native community. And I'm really thankful and grateful to be here. And thank you, Anita, for asking me to be here.
Thanks for joining us. I know you have to run out to your graduation ceremony, so we'll keep this quick. Lenny, could you share with us a little bit about your work as a mental health provider and how you hope to work with or what you can offer the families that we work with?
Yes, so part of my work is based a lot on the historical and intergenerational trauma that our people have experienced. I've also worked with a lot of individuals in regards to grief. And also I've worked with individuals who, survivors of trafficking. And so I understand all of that. And I come from a place as also being a survivor of child sexual, physical, mental, and emotional abuse. So through my own healing journey is what prompted me to become a mental health provider, because I know the struggles and challenges it is for our people to connect with people who are non-Native, and basically people who don't understand our struggles and challenges that we have gone through. So I really do promote healing. I do a lot of work in regards to sexual violence against men and boys, because again, that's another population that we don't talk about. And a lot of my work is based on working with individuals who identify as Two-Spirit or Native LGBTQ, which again is another population that we don't talk about. So that's a lot of the work that I do.
And if there's something that you would say to a MMIP family or a survivor of violence about therapy or about counseling, maybe they're feeling nervous about it or self-conscious about starting it, what's something that you would say to them?
Well, first of all, I think one of the things is that I totally understand what it feels like in going into a place of like a therapeutic setting and talking about trauma or talking about your past. I know the difficulty through my work. A lot of my work is based on not only the Western way of thinking, but I incorporate the cultural and spiritual aspect of healing through my work. And that's a lot of the work that I lean towards. Um, One of the things that I always say is that the Western way of healing, the perspective has its purpose. But again, I incorporate a lot of the cultural and spiritual aspect of healing through my work when I work with individuals, I incorporate a lot of smudging, a lot of like connecting with Mother Earth, using our medicines through the process. Because in my own experience, I have found that using our medicines when we're healing from trauma is so beneficial. Um, and then even the connection with, well-respected elders within the community, individuals who I connect with when I need to connect with them. Um, so, and my process is very gentle. I don't rush into things. It takes time to talk about trauma. And so I'm very patient in that way. So.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows, SBI does have some limited spaces available to work with Lenny. So if there's any families or survivors who are listening and are interested in speaking with Lenny about potentially accessing some therapy or counseling, please let us know. You can let us know privately. It'll all stay confidential. And then anything that you discuss with Lenny, the rest of the SBI team will not know about. So everything is confidential and a safe space for you. But we do have those spaces available if folks are interested. So Lenny, I know you got to dash out to your graduation. Thank you so much for joining and congratulations. We're so proud of you and happy to have you on our team and part of our family.
Thank you. And I apologize to the ones who are attending. So again, have a good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Lenny. Okay, now we're going to kind of backtrack and focus a little bit more on our work in Montana and specific. And just as background context for folks who may not know, SBI started a project in earlier this year in Southeastern Montana in Bighorn, Rosebud, and Yellowstone counties, which is the Northern Cheyenne Crow reservations, as well as the city of Billings. And that project is on missing and murdered Indigenous people and organizing and bringing the families together and fighting for justice for all of them. So many of the cases in that area are unsolved and have been neglected, or there's very clear evidence of corruption or all sorts of mistakes done in cases that we felt it was really important to make sure that every family in that area had a platform and that every case was going to be pushed forward to justice. So today we're talking about that. At the end of this webinar, we'll talk more about some of our next steps in that work. But today we really wanted you to hear from one of the families in the area and hear about their experiences in their own words. So today we have Jennifer Whitebear joining us. And Jennifer, as mentioned, is the mother of Bonnie 3 Irons. Jennifer, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Jennifer, maybe could you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your connections to the MMIP or MMIW issue, just anything you're comfortable sharing.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Whitebear. I am a Crow native from Crow Agency, Montana. I am a mother of 4 children. Bonnie was one of them. I have 34 grandkids, 2 more on the way, 2 great. My daughter, Bonnie, she was left in the Wolf Mountains in between April 10th, and we didn't know that she was left up there for 3 days, and the person she left with was a very, very, very close relative, someone she grew up with. It took us a couple of days. We searched for her, and where we started searching from is where we found her. So we know, even though the cops say there was no foul play, we all know. I think we're better detectives because she was our child. That's my excuse me.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And I just want to thank you for your courageousness and your bravery. I know that this is really, really hard to talk about. And I know that you've stepped up to be Bonnie's voice, and that's a hard burden to carry. So if you need a break or if you need to step away, just let us know. We're here just to listen to what you want to share. My next question for you is, can you tell us a little bit about Bonnie? How would you like her to be remembered? What are some of the important things we should know about her?
When she was younger, it was on a Crow Fair. She was filmed by I don't know, a news company, and they asked her what she liked about Crow Fair, and she pointed her finger number 1, and she said, "Cotton candy, it only costs that $1." She was beautiful. She was good in sports. She was good in school. She was a good child. She was a good sister to her brothers and sisters. And she learned my mechanic skills because they were always using the ride. And I said, you have to know what to do if something happens. And I kind of taught them the basics of mechanicking. Their friends would ask them, "Tell your mom this is something that's wrong with my vehicle," and ask her what it could be. And they would straight out tell them, "Oh, it has to be such and such," and then they'd go tell their parents, and they'd find out that they were true. They said, "Man, your mom's smart." And I said, "Yeah, we're trying to learn what we can because we're always using the car." And as she grew older, she has 6 beautiful children, 4 of which I'm taking care of. One of the girls is with their dad, and her oldest child, Elisha, is basically married up. You know, the Crow way, the Indian way. But yeah, she was something else growing up. I always got called to school, and they'd say, "You need to come to the school. Bonnie started some trouble, and another boy, and they're both at each other's throats." And so I'd drive down from the house, and I'd go to the school. And me and the teacher would be standing in the doorway, and the boy would be out in the hallway, and Bonnie would be inside the classroom. And next thing we know it, she's fighting the boy, and I'd say, "How'd she get past us?" She was a fighter. She should have took up boxing. She was something else. She was beautiful. Very, very beautiful. She worked very hard. She struggled, but she would get her rent paid, her utilities paid, get what she could for her kids. It was always what they needed. And she'd get them, when she had money on the side, she would get them what they wanted. But she was awesome. She was my masseuse. When I'd come home from work, she knew I was hurting, and she'd get me a hot bath ready when she knew I was coming home. And after I got out of the hot bath, she would say, "Okay, Mom, lay down." I'd lay down, and she'd massage me from my head to my feet, and it would make me feel better.
She sounds like she was a beautiful, special woman.
She is. She will always be. She was something else. She was strong, intelligent, very smart. She was an awesome person. Any person would have loved being around
And
her.
one of the things I've noticed when people talk about her is just how love.
Yes, she was loved. She will always be loved.
Do you feel like there was any kind of justice for Bonnie?
No, not at all. Everyone that was involved, 2 are passed away and 2 are in prison. No one's talking. I wish I could just go and shake them up and say, "Tell me what you guys did to my daughter. What happened? I know you guys know," but no one wants to talk. I said, "That was your cousin, your sister, your niece. How can you guys not tell me what's going on?"
Do you think that law
Every
enforcement...
day.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. We have a lag.
Every day in my mind, when I wake up, I ask why this had to have happened to her, why they couldn't have called me. I would have got up. I would have went looking for her. Shoot, all my family would have got up and went looking for her. But they didn't tell us for 3 days. I had searched those 3 days. I would gas up and go all the way to Wyola, all the way up past our house. I didn't know anything about the Wolf Mountains, even though they're right there. But I went every day. I'd go to Lodge Crest and look for her. And my sister, all that time, she knew where she had left her and never said nothing. Until I was making out a report, she called me at the police department, and I asked her where she was. I begged her, please tell me where she's at. And she said last time I saw her was at the Wolf Mountains. I said, you knew she would have cooled down and got back in the ride. But you just left her. You just left her there. It's very hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in my whole life. When her kids do something amazing, I always look up at her picture above the bed and say, Bonnie, did you see that? Did you see what they did? Did you see what they're accomplishing? And I always tell my grandkids, tell mommy good night when we go to bed. And I always tell my grandson, because he was her right-hand man, always went everywhere with her. I always tell him, make sure you leave a space on your bed and a pillow so mommy can come and sleep with you at night. And both of them, both the babies, say, because mommy's helping God in heaven. And I say, yes. When she's through, she'll come down and lay with you kids. So they say, good night, mommy, and they go to sleep. Very, very hard. When I hear her name, I break. I fall apart. I wish the law enforcement was like the NCIS or CSI. I wish they would dig in and get the truth out. And, a lot of crimes would be figured out if they just put some effort into it instead of pushing aside and saying that's too much paperwork. One less person to worry about. But my daughter was not one less person. No one's child is one less person.
Jennifer, I want to share with you, someone commented on Facebook and said that it sounds like you're a very brave person doing brave work of healing and advocating. And I would agree with them. You're very brave. And not just to share with us today, but for all you've done for Bonnie, MMIW, for your grandkids. I know it must be, I can't imagine how hard it must be to have those conversations with them about their mom. One of the things we wanted to ask you is if law enforcement were to get more involved in her case, are there things that you would like them to do?
Yes. Yes, there is. I would like them to get out there and, we were on foot. We went from where we started searching, and that was where they found her. We searched from there all the way to the Cheyenne border. Every day, for 4 days we searched. And we always started from that area. And we never found her until that Friday. So we know someone placed her there, especially the way they said they found her. They wouldn't let me go see her. I tried. It took a couple of my brothers to hold me down. But somehow I got loose and I told him I would be okay, and I just needed a minute. And as soon as they backed off, I tried to get myself together. And it was like a football game. I tried to see which way I could go through to run down the hill to see her. But when I would try again, all I wanted to do was to see her and hold her. But they wouldn't let me. He just grabbed me and tackled me and took me back to the car, and all I wanted to do was see my daughter and hold her. When my brothers, they said they seen her, and they were told not to go down there, but when all the officers went up, a couple of my brothers went down there, and they said they had to creep around the bushes, and they went over there and under the fence, and they seen my daughter, and they said the way that they had put her, it was like they carried her or dragged her, and she was on top of a bunch of branches that were on the ground, and she had one shoe and one sock off, and her shirt was over her tummy, and she had a very thin sweater on, and her hair was mangled and had like tree leaves and branches in it. It was all wrong. It was so wrong in so many ways. When we came back to Hardin, when we were making the things, the arrangements for my daughter's funeral, I asked Willis where her clothes were, and he said he had burned them. And that's not right. They were supposed to be for evidence. And that was so wrong. It was like they were trying to cover up something. And I asked for help, and when I kept calling the FBI in Billings, or the number they gave me, they kept saying that nobody would speak up, and there wasn't much they could do because no one was saying anything, and they were going to close the case. I begged them not to close it because something was wrong. I could feel it. Me as a mother, I could feel that there was something wrong. They did something to her. They threw her purse on the side of the road, thought we'd never find it. She had so many stuff in her bag, and everything was taken out, and all there was her bill of sale for her car. And she always had a lot of stuff in there. So I know they're covering up something. They did something to her. Because she grew up in the mountains. She knew how to survive in the cold in the winter, the snow. We lived at the foot of the Bighorn Mountain, so we knew they did something to her. But I wish they would look more into it and talk to them, speak to them now that they're, I don't know, I hope they're not all drugged up like they were before. Does someone know something? They're just too scared to say anything. Shoot, when something happens on our reservation by noon, everybody knows. But someone gets killed, everybody just shuts up. That first day when the police were helping us search for my daughter, we were almost to the Sheridan borderline of Wyoming. We were like way on total different side of where we found her. We got reception on my phone and Messenger kept going off. And one of the messages, I can't remember who it was from, but they said we found her, or they found her. She was beat up and they threw her in the ditch. And my sister, I showed my sister, I started screaming and crying, and she said, "Don't believe anything you read." But that's how we found her. So I don't know, maybe they can look back and find all the messages on Messenger. I don't know. I don't know how they do things like that. But it could be used as evidence. I don't know. I watch a lot of NCIS, CSI, Law and Order. I know they can find out things if they just put a little bit more effort into it. We're not just another native gone dead. We're somebody. And that's what I stand by, is we are someone. We're not just another dead Indian.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And I'm so sorry about how it all happened, what happened to her, everything your family has been through. You didn't deserve any of that. Nobody does.
Thank you.
There was a new cold case review office opened up in Billings recently as part of the government's work on this issue. Do you feel like that office should get involved in Bonnie's case?
Yes, I do.
Have you heard from them at all?
No, I haven't heard from anybody, just you.
Yeah, I think the hard part about these different government initiatives is that they say that they're going to open up cases or that they're going to listen to families, and they don't really actually do that. I don't know
Yeah.
anybody who contacted by that cold case review office. Do you think, are there things that the MMIW or the MMIP movement should be doing for families to support you or to help push Bonnie's case forward?
Yes, I think they should help push Bonnie's case forward because she didn't deserve what she got, and her kids don't deserve to have lost their mother, and I don't deserve to have lost my daughter. But we do need answers, and all I need is help. Any kind of help would be very appreciated.
Well, SBI is always here for you. I am always here for you. And we're going to keep pushing for justice for Bonnie. And I know that there's other folks interested in helping because we've gotten some questions on Facebook of how people could get involved or how they could support you. Is there anything in particular that would be helpful to you?
I just want whoever did this to get what they deserve. I want my children and my grandkids to know that they didn't get away with it. Because I lost not only my daughter, I lost a best friend.
Are there things
If you would have met her.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
If you would have met her, you would have liked her. She was awesome. She's an awesome person. Me and Bonnie were like two, I don't know, you know how mother and daughters, they argue with each other, mad at each other, laugh with each other, cry with each other. That was me and her. We'd be angry at each other, and by noon we'd be laughing, and by night we'd all be eating and watching a movie or something together. But she was always here. Every time I told her I have to work tomorrow, you have to come watch the kids, and she was always here. And she didn't show up, I knew there was something wrong. Now my grandkids always say, "Oh, but we're with family." I said, "Your mom was with my sister, her auntie, grew up with her as a sister. Family doesn't mean that much to me anymore. After what they did, can't trust nobody." I said, "So you can't say I'm with family because that doesn't mean much. How could family do that and not tell us?" It's hard. It's very, very hard. When my grandkids go hang out with their friends or something, I sit here and I pray and I pray and I pray that God watches over them. And when they don't show up at a certain time when they know they're supposed to be home, I freak out. I don't want this ever happening to me again. It's the worst, horrible feeling a person could ever go through. Some of the people that were with her are in jail. I know some are in prison. I wish I could go and ask them for myself. I don't know if that would jeopardize anything, so I just sit back because I want them to go to court and face me and tell me why they did what they did to my daughter. Why they could have just left her there. When I was little, the teacher asked us what we wanted to be when we grow up. I said I want to be a cop to either throw somebody in jail or a nurse so I could help someone. And I always watch these NCIS and think, if I was a cop, I could do this, or I could check that out. I could help somebody's family. I always tell my grandkids, I said, be who you can be, but be somebody that people will always look up to you and say thank you for helping me. The only thing missing in my life is my daughter. And all I ask is for justice for her. Some days I have my good days, and sometimes the water faucet just won't shut off. One time I put that on my Facebook, and one of my aunties said, your uncle knows how to fix sinks. Which water faucet is broken? I said, on my head. And she goes, what? And I said, it's a metaphor. I said, it's my eyes. My eyes won't stop running, and I can't shut it off. And they just laughed. They said, oh, geez. You know what I want for my Bonnie and all these kids, women, children that have gone missing or murdered or lost and cannot be found. I wish justice for every one of them. I wish and pray for the ones that are lost that they be found. Hopefully and praying safely and all in one piece. That's what I pray for every day. But that's what I pray for.
Is there anything that you want people to know about this issue or how they should get involved?
Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's where I lack. I get scared. I panic. There are people out there that will help. All we need to do is ask for it. I try very hard to ask for help, but in my heart, I can say everything that needs to be said, but when it comes out to saying it, I panic. I try very hard to be strong, but it hurts so much that it just doesn't come out everything I need to be said. But I am thankful I have you guys for help. Thankful for all of you who reached out and helping me and my grandkids for their mom.
Always. And it's an honor. It's an honor to have your trust, and to have you, want to work with us and to let us help, let us support you. There's
Thank
another
you.
comment on Facebook. Somebody shared that, I'll just read what they wrote. They said, I'm so sorry you were not contacted by the cold case office. We carry the weight with you and support you. My continual prayers are with you, and I wish Bonnie peace. We will honor her memory. Our hearts break with yours. So just know you have so many people in your corner who love you, praying for you and praying for your grandkids and praying for justice for Bonnie. Is there anything else? I know that we've talked for quite a bit and I don't want to take too much out of you. Is there anything else that you want to share in closing?
I can't think right now.
That's okay. I've
I
actually have
just
one.
want to say,
Or go,
I just
sorry,
want
go
to say thank you. Thank you, everyone. My heart, with all my heart, thank you.
We're here for you and we're holding you and your
Thank you.
family in our hearts and our prayers and holding you up. And it's unacceptable that there hasn't been justice for. It's unacceptable that law enforcement have not done their job. And we're going to push hard to change that. Love you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
I hate that we're doing this over Zoom. All I want to do is give you a big hug.
Thank you.
We have another question from Facebook. Somebody was wondering if there are resources that folks can send or if there's anything that they can do to support Bonnie's kids.
I don't know what you mean.
I'm not sure what they mean either. Maybe if there's things that the community can do for them, or sometimes SBI, we help we help buy some kids some school supplies, or we did a Christmas gift drive last year, do it again this year. Are there little things that the community can do to show Bonnie's kids that they're loved and cared for too?
Oh, yeah. I put together wait, Jenny Bear. Wait, yes, I know, thank you. I put together a table that I brought up from the basement and that the other kids were using. And I fixed it up. Half of it I had Paw Patrol, and the other half I had Frozen. And I put a plastic over it, and then I bought them each a chair, a pink chair and a blue chair, and these little holders that hold up the iPads or their phones, and as starting to be their teacher, because I'm keeping them home this year. because of the coronavirus. And yesterday we got their iPads from school, and I tried to be their teacher, and it just got me all confused. So if someone can come over and be a teacher. And they're only kindergarten and first grade. There's only 2 of them. I'm barely learning how to use my phone in certain ways, but yeah, any help whatsoever is so greatly appreciated. We accept anything. I brought them up not to be picky, because there's less fortunate children than them, and I let them know that, don't be so picky, because there's kids out there that don't even have anything close to what you have. So be appreciative of what we can afford to give you, so they're happy with anything.
That Paw Patrol Frozen table sounds awesome. I love Frozen.
Yeah, I put it like right halfway down so they each have their own little space. I think I put a picture of it on Facebook with their little with the chairs and their little computer holders or laptop holders.
Oh,
so
cute.
I'll look for one, and then I'll send it to you.
Well, Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for sharing as much as you have with us today. I know it was really hard, but it's really important, I think, for people. Like, we hear about this issue kind of, in the abstract, like we hear about numbers or things like that, but we don't always know the stories. And I think it's important for people to hear the stories directly from families. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. And anything we can do for you, we will do.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, all of you. I don't know who's all there, who's all out there. Thank you from my heart and my kids and my grandkids. It really means a lot to us. One thing I ask is everyone be safe out there. Wash your hands, use a mask. I know I would like to see and hear from a lot of you. I don't want to hear, a certain person passed away, and we need to help each other and to keep safe and keep healthy. I know I've lost a lot of people that meant a lot to me from this virus. So please be safe out there.
Absolutely. I know that COVID has hit Crow and Northern Cheyenne really hard. So we're praying for everybody there. And then the fires that were there have been terrible. Here in California, we've had awful fires too. I think it's just a hard time for so many people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. I think we're going to turn over to, this is a good segue to introduce some of our new staff. I think one of the things that we learned at SBI pretty fast is that there's so little support for MMIW families, and so many things that would be helpful to them, that it was important for us to hire somebody who was specifically there to help families and to help survivors. And we have her on the call today. So we're going to have her join us and have her introduce herself so that the families can get to know her a little bit. And then for any families who are listening, including you, Jennifer, we'll also have Carla set aside time to meet individually with families so that we can kind of get a sense of any new things that would be helpful for families, and also for the families to get to know her and to feel comfortable with her, because that's really important. So Carla, could you join us, please? There you are. Thank you. So everybody, this is Carla Cheney, and I got to meet Carla. Let's see, it's been almost 2 years now, huh? And Carla and I met through shared work in Indigenous communities, and we're really lucky to have brought Carla onto our team just recently. Last week was her first week, so she's still settling in and getting to know SBI and our work and all the families. But as I mentioned, it was really important to us to bring in somebody who could be dedicated to providing services to the families and survivors we work with. And as services coordinator, that's now Carla's job. So Carla, I will turn it over to you for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your story. It's so hard to hear it, and I can only imagine how hard it is to tell your story. So prayers go out to you, and love to your family and to you. Thank you for sharing that. My name is Carla Cheney. As Anita said, I just started last week. I'm very excited that Anita asked me to come join the team. My background is in social work, and I've primarily worked in tribal communities as a tribal social worker. So doing different things around ICWA work or elder care, whoever needed support in the communities that I worked for. That was my job. I really love working with people. I love hearing people's stories and sitting with them and being part in that journey when they most need someone to be there for, just to listen or be a part of that journey in that moment. I look forward to getting to know all of you in more personal way, and hearing your stories as far as you want to share with me. And I'm here to support you with anything you might need in terms of what your families might need, what kids might need, what you might need in order to bring the word out there, or if you need any items like food or clothing or anything we can help with in that way. That's what I'm here for as well. And I really look forward to meeting all the survivors and families who work with us as SBI. I've been in awe of SBI and Anita and all the work that you guys do, and just, seeing you talk about it, seeing your passion, your true commitment. I was honored to be asked to be part of this team, and very, very excited and really happy to be a part of this team. My personal background is I'm Peruvian and German. I have Indigenous ancestry on my mother's side. She's the Peruvian side. I was born in Germany since my dad was German, and I then immigrated with my mother and brother to this country. So I moved around a lot, very nomadic, and that's a bit of my background. My mom was a single mom, so she struggled, and we did the best we could, and she was very much a fighter and a trooper, and a big role model to me. So I feel lucky to have had strong women in my family who guided me throughout my life and my journey. So that's a little bit about my personal background. And then educationally, I first got a master's in national and transnational studies. I was hoping to work for the UN on human trafficking issues, but I realized that such a large picture, such a macro level, large picture was a little bit overwhelming to look at the global impacts of all of that, and the global impacts of colonialism and the impacts it had on our Indigenous peoples. At times it would overwhelm me. I felt like, well, what's my role in that if it's so big? So I realized that I much prefer talking to people one-on-one and being part of the community and really actually having an impact that way. I think being together in that way is more helpful, and then I know it's more of my calling. So I turned my attention to social work to do just that. I wanted to learn how to do that better. I think in my family, that's what the women in my family do. Um, we are there, we sit with people and we try to help in whatever ways we can. And that's how I've been taught and grew up. So it came more natural in that way. And that's why I followed social work. I worked locally here in Northern California with the Yurok tribe, Bear River, Ronerville, Rancheria. And then I also worked in Nebraska with the Santee Sioux Nation. My husband's Lakota from Lower Brule, and that kind of brought me into wanting to work more with Indigenous peoples here in North America. But being from South America, I also am very happy that SBI reaches beyond borders, beyond these colonial borders that have been created to separate us. And that really drew me to the work as well. So I hope to be of service in any way I can, and I look forward to meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. And could you tell us just briefly a little bit about your experience in working with Indigenous folks who have experienced violence?
Yes, primarily when I would work with folks, it would be the whole family, and it was primarily in the ICWA setting. When children would be removed by the state, I would, ensure that the laws from ICWA were being followed. And that is immensely traumatizing to families. And in each area, it looks a little different in each area or each state that you're working in. So it's very important for me to always ensure I knew the law. I knew how to talk to the people on, the families as well, with a kind heart and an open heart, not judging anything, because we all have had our way of surviving through all of this, and that is you never talk to families in that way. I was taught to always see people as with respect and love, and that's how you talk to people, especially going through trauma, and understanding that this trauma has been handed down from generation to generation to generation due to impacts that, from colonialism, from imperialism, and just really understanding that still has such a great effect on people. So yeah, it's always my intention to sit with you in a good way, and never to judge a person for what's going on in life right now. It's a snapshot of that person. It's never the whole story. And then making sure you can talk to the state workers who don't always understand that story, right? Who don't always have that background in what has happened to Indigenous communities on a global scale, and sitting with them and explaining it in a way that they might understand the severe impacts of what has happened to our peoples. So that's how I've worked within community with that, but primarily with children and their families. And that means the whole family, because usually you don't ever work with an isolated person. You're always working within their whole family unit, because we all belong with each other. So, the community, the family, everything has to be considered within that.
And if there are any families listening now, is there anything that you would want to share with them?
Just that I'm here, and I'm here to listen. I'm here to help in any way I can. I'm still learning about SBI, but I'm learning fast, and Anita is an amazing teacher and an amazing mentor for me to learn quickly. And I've seen what domestic violence can do from my own childhood, and I know the impacts of that, and just violence in general on our peoples, whether you're in the inner city or you're on a reservation. I've seen that impact in my own personal story, but also just from the work I've done. And I'm here to listen and just to be there and give support in any way I can. So that's my hope, that you'll feel comfortable to reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Carla. And just so folks know, Carla and I are going to be working together. So basically all of this started because the services that we were providing to families was mostly just kind of, maybe I'll back up and say the little history about SBI. So we launched in January of last year. The work before that with the database was just me as kind of a grassroots individual. And then we created SBI as the new home for that work. And all these beautiful projects started growing out of it. And our data analyst, Aaron Fisher, who's Northern Cheyenne, was our first official staff person that we hired last year, in addition to me. But then we really didn't have any, she worked part-time and we didn't have any full-time staff that worked with us until this spring, early summer, when Michaela, who's also going to introduce herself, joined our team as operations manager. And so now we have Michaela, myself, and Carla all working full time. So it was important for us to build our capacity as an organization, because before, when we didn't have Carla and Michaela, and it was just me as the only full-time person, and then Aaron working part-time, it was challenging to get everything done that we needed to get done, and challenging to make sure that we were doing the best we possibly could to support all of the families that we work with. And I didn't want to keep families waiting because my schedule was so all over the place, or because I had too many pots in the fire. And so my hope is in creating the services coordinator position and in hiring Carla for that position, that now there won't be that wait time, and it won't be just me running around like a chicken with my head cut off, because that's what it's been like for the last year and a half. And so Carla is going to be the lead in providing our services to families and survivors. And those services vary from family to family. Every family needs different things and is at a different place in their healing journey and what they're going through. But some of those things can include emotional support, referrals to mental health providers, emergency financial assistance, especially during COVID. We've been doing grocery assistance and school supplies and things like that. We also help families if they want to raise awareness on their loved one's case, or hold a memorial or a vigil, talk to press. Carla's going to be the person handling all of that. And then on my end, I'll still be working with the families. I'm not disappearing. I'm still going to be just as accessible as I always was, hopefully more so because now I have help. But my job in working with the families is to help on legal advocacy. So if there's cases where the family needs help as a liaison with law enforcement or with medical examiners, or the case needs to get pushed forward, that's really where I come in partnership with Carla. So I'm really excited to get to work with Carla. I know that she has just the most beautiful heart, and is so dedicated to her work, that I know that she's going to do great with the families and great in this movement. So I'm really excited to have her join us. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you, Anita.
And now I want to turn it over to Michaela. Can you join us, Michaela? Awesome. Okay, Michaela, let me just say, is a godsend. Michaela joined us as our new operations manager earlier this year. And she is the behind the scenes person who gets a major portion of what we do done. I don't know how I survived without Michaela or how SBI survived without Michaela. So she's been a really critical part of growing our capacity as an organization, and growing our work. So Michaela, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela Madrid. My maiden name is Stroop. I'm a member of the Lower Brule Lakota Sioux tribe. I'm born and raised in South Dakota. I was born in Pierre and then also grew up in White River and Martin, and then kind of made my way back to Pierre where I graduated from high school. Then I went off to Black Hills State University to get my undergrad in political science and sociology. And I just finished up my master's in public policy. There I emphasized on intergovernmental relations with tribal governments. So my role at SBI is really primarily focused on kind of the administrative side, kind of making sure our wheels keep turning, but then I also kind of fill in on every project where needed. So I'm super excited to be here, part of SBI. I actually met Anita because I cited her in a paper, one of the first papers that I wrote for grad school. And it just kind of led to us developing a friendship, and then eventually into seeing the position was open. And so it really feels like Creator kind of guided me here, and I'm just really grateful to be able to work in a place that is so in line with my values, that I feel like I can be kind of my whole self here.
That's awesome. We are so lucky to have you. Michaela, like I said, has just been such an integral part of our team and has really just kind of blended seamlessly with our work to the point where, yeah, I don't remember how we did work without her. And the reason that I wanted to have Lenny and Carla and Michaela introduce themselves on this webinar is they haven't gotten a chance to meet with a lot of the families that we work with in Montana. And as we jump back into that work now, I wanted all of the folks we work with in Montana to have a chance to put a face to the name and to kind of get to know them and what they do at SBI. Because inevitably, if you work with us, if you're a family, you'll end up working with Carla to access our services. Whether you're a family or a community partner, you'll have contact with Michaela because Michaela handles a lot of the logistics for our day-to-day operations. And I wanted folks to know that Lenny is available for counseling and therapy as well. So really all four of us staff members from SBI who are on the call today, we're resources for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm going to close just by talking a little bit about what we see as the future of our work with families in Southeastern Montana. Unfortunately, our project had a lot of momentum build up in February. And then when COVID hit, everything got kind of put on pause. And we kept waiting, hoping that COVID, I think a lot of us hoped that it would kind of blow over. No one expected it to turn into what it is currently. And as time went on throughout the summer, we felt like, okay, now that this is becoming a more kind of permanent part of day-to-day life, at least for the foreseeable future, we have to figure out a way to jump back into the work. And so that's what we're trying to do now. Part of our work in February was bringing MMIP families from across those three counties, Rosebud, Bighorn, and Yellowstone, to sign an open letter for policymakers and law enforcement in the region to demand an interagency review team for all of the cases for those families who are signing on, so that if there was any tip that wasn't investigated properly or a medical exam that wasn't done thoroughly, any kind of loose ends that should be taken care of, we want those things followed up on and reviewed immediately. And we also want to make sure that the ball doesn't get dropped that way again. No family should have to go through the level of corruption and negligence that families in that region have gone through. And we want that to change immediately. And unfortunately, that's not going to change until policymakers and law enforcement are willing to sit at the table with us and have an open, honest conversation about where things went wrong. And that's what we're pushing for with that interagency review team. We have had some successes with folks who are interested. The state chief medical examiner, for example, has been very open to participating in something like that, very forthcoming with families that are connected with him, and has been a great ally in this work. So there are wheels that are starting to turn, but COVID has set us back. So right now we're in the process of getting those wheels turning again to continue to fight for those case reviews. We also want to make sure that families are getting what they need, which is why I was so excited to have Carla join our team. So if there's any families both from that area or anywhere else who are listening, please reach out to us and get in touch with Carla. We'll post how to get in contact with SBI after this webinar on our Facebook page so that you have that information. And yeah, I think I just want to close by thanking the family of Bonnie Three Irons, thanking Jennifer Whitebear for sharing with us today. I also want to thank the family of Kaysera Stops Pretty Places. Kaysera's family has worked really hard to schedule a series of events to raise awareness for Justice for Kaysera, who was murdered in Hardin. One of the things I really appreciate about Kaysera's family is that they've always seen this as justice, not just for Kaysera, but for all of the cases in the area. They've fought really hard to document and to resist isn't the right word, but to call attention to and to change the level of corruption and negligence happening in Bighorn County. And they've been such a force of change and of justice and healing in that area that I really want to thank them for asking us to host this webinar today as part of the Justice for Kaysera events that are stretching through the anniversary of when Kaysera went missing, all the way up until the date that Kaysera's remains were identified. Kaysera's family has a letter writing campaign that's currently going, asking for justice for Kaysera. We've posted that link to our Facebook page. So if you're interested in getting involved, the letters are already written. You've just got to sign your name to it and send it off. You can email it, so it's super easy, but it will make a big difference. So please support Kaysera's family by taking part in that letter writing campaign. There's also a Justice for Kaysera Facebook page I would urge folks to follow. There's all sorts of information there, including other webinars that have taken place in the last couple of weeks as part of this series of events. Please check that out and do what you can to support Kaysera's family and justice for MMIP in Bighorn County. So with that, we're going to close this webinar out. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. We will keep this posted on our Facebook page as well as on our website. And we look forward to the path ahead. So thanks, everybody.